is going on, guys? Welcome to the Sunday drive. Now we got a little bit of a fun one today. For those of you guys not in the loop, we did a full automatic to manual conversion on this car, and today we're going to be talking about that, the differences between the automatic and the manual car. Now, having driven this car with an automatic and now the manual, it sort of gives me a little bit of a different insight. I can really compare the two different types of transmissions instead of comparing two different cars, because, you know, like the chassis is the same, suspension's the same, the whole wheel tire setup's the same. So it really just narrows down the differences between the transmissions with driving this. So before we get too far into it, I want to make it clear that this car still has the automatic differential in it, which is a 3.38 over the factory manual 3.23, which basically makes the gearing a little bit shorter. So the gears are a lot shorter, I'm shifting a little bit more, and at like a higher speed, I'm at a higher RPM at the same speed that I would be if I had a 323. So as far as like just day-to-day driving, I mean, it is different because it is a manual, but at the same time, it's just like normal driving, you know, you just have to shift. That's basically it. I will say though, I do think under normal day-to-day just driving conditions that the automatic is actually quicker. And I don't mean that in like all-out performance, I mean just daily driving around quarter throttle all the time. Because the gears are longer and because it doesn't, the torque converter, it doesn't really drop the power between shifts like a manual transmission does. I think if you were to just drive a manual versus an automatic off the line at a quarter throttle, the automatic would be quicker because it doesn't have those pauses in between shifting. And I mean, that's not really something to brag about, just like day-to-day driving, oh, my car is quicker at a quarter throttle. It's just something that I noted. In addition to that, on the highway at like 80 miles an hour, this thing is sitting at almost 4,000 RPM because it has that 338 diff. So on the freeway, when I'm going 80 miles an hour, because I'm closer to peak torque, when I roll on the throttle, I get this giant shove, and it's a lot quicker than the automatic. I don't have to deal with that old BS auto downshifting thing. The car it's just a shove of torque and the whole thing goes, which is pretty nice. Now I could go into all the BS specs. Okay, the manual's 100 pounds lighter, the gears are shorter, it puts down power better, all that basic stuff. But we're not going to go into that. We're going to go into how fundamentally different the two transmissions are and how that sort of relates into the driving characteristics and the way the car drives. And sitting on a highway like this doing 60 miles an hour, you know, you really can't tell too much of a difference. Now, where they do differ is on a road like this. This is West Lilac in San Marcos, like Oceanside, San Marcos area. And this road has a lot of curves, a lot of winds, and in a road like this, they're two completely different animals. Now, the thing with automatic transmission is, yeah, you don't get a shift, you don't get a heel toe, but the difference isn't really in that. It's in the system management, how the transmissions are managed. Now, a couple months ago, when the car was still automatic, I did a Palomar mountain run with a couple of my friends Thanksgiving morning. We went out there and we hill climbed Palomar Mountain. Another really super windy, really fun road. And one of my good friends, Oscar, had an RSX, and his RSX is manual. I was sort of behind him and he was leading, but I would always catch him in the straightaways, but he would always pull away from me at a corner exit. And right there is where the two transmissions are completely different. Because with the automatic transmission on that hill climb, the transmission ECU, the automatic transmission ECU, it thinks it knows what's best for the car. See, with an automatic transmission, and the newer ones are different than this, the older ones like the 90 ones, they have their own ideas of what the best shifting points, the best power delivery is. And through the automatic transmission, you control the engine. With an automatic in one of these, you don't directly control the engine, the automatic transmission does. And because of that, there's sort of this barrier between me and the car. Now, I'm fighting the transmission to get it to do what I want it to do, and it's fighting me to do what it thinks it's best. And so there's this giant miscommunication between me and the car, and whenever you would exit a corner with an automatic like that, you would get on the throttle and it would have to downshift, you know, that takes a second or whatever to get that all mess figured out, and it's really annoying. Now, I was using the 432 mode and sort of taking the automatic transmission by its collar on its neck and forcing it to do what I wanted it to do. But even then, it was still poking through and messing up what I wanted it to do. I could never get it on the same page as me. You see what I mean? My point is, it wasn't being submissive, and because of that, I was fighting the transmission on the whole hill climb to get it to do what I wanted it to do. Not to mention, its shifts are sloppy, it's shifting at all the wrong points despite me telling it what to do. And because of that, I would get pulled away from on corner exits because I would have to drop a gear to get back up there. And again, the gear drop isn't up to me, it's up to the automatic transmission to drop when it thinks it wants to, or whenever I force it to, you know? And it's this whole mess. Now, I'm sure the newer cars with the dual clutches and all that stuff, the transmission control module is a lot more submissive, but in these old 90s cars, the automatic transmission has this giant sense of entitlement and just, you know, it just decides to do whatever the fuck it wants to do. And with a manual transmission like that, there is no longer an automatic transmission control module. The transmission management is up to me. And because I have that power, I can put the engine wherever I want to. I know what I want from the car. I know what I want from the transmission. I know what gear I want to be in. I know what RPM I want to be at. I have complete control of the car. I'm not fighting the transmission to make it do what I want. It does what I want because I make it do what I want, because there's no control module telling it what to do. I'm directly telling it what to do. Because the truth is, the automatic transmission has no idea, right? It's just a little computer. It doesn't know what's going to be ahead. It doesn't know that there's a sharp left corner ahead, and it doesn't know it needs to downshift. It doesn't know what the course of attack is, you know? It's all based on throttle input, and because it can't see into the future like I can see the corner ahead. I know what gear I need to be in on this exit. And with the manual transmission, because I can see what's coming up, because I can see the corner, there's no more guesswork. I do all of the shifting, all of the work, and because of that, it incorporates me with the car. There's no longer this barrier there. The car is completely submissive and it does only what I tell it to. And that's where the two transmissions differ, because with the manual, because I'm controlling it 100%, there's no longer this barrier there between me and the car, which means my focus that was on trying to get the transmission to do what I want it to do, that focus is now going into the road, to going into braking, getting the lines right, you know, exiting the corner, all that stuff. And on the corner exit, because I can heel toe or rev match into the gear I want to be, I'm at the gear I want to be when I exit the corner. So there's no longer this like exit the corner, floor it, the transmission has to drop a gear and then go. It's just fluent out of the corner, you know what I mean? And it just makes for a lot better driving experience. And that's sort of the main difference, is with the manual transmission, you are completely one with the car. You and the car are one entity, and now you're working on the road, not working on driving the car. And the car sort of feels like an extension of you in a sense. And that's what a lot of people mean when they say that the manual transmissions offer more control and more superior driving experiences, because they do, because the management is up to you. It's no longer up to this computer, and you don't have to fight it. You can just not even think about it. The car is much more submissive, and it just gives all the control to me. And so now at the corner exit, I'm in the gear I want to be in. Now with the new dual clutches and PDKs, they give you the paddle shifters, which is sort of a way to incorporate yourself into the car, to get the ideas for the road ahead into the car so the car knows. With the old 90s cars, the automatic in this M3, there's no way to tell it what I want to do. It's just drive, sport mode, 432, you know, there's no good way to communicate with the car. And again, aside from all of that management noise, the car is lighter. The clutch puts down power better than the torque converter does, so there's less drivetrain loss. I can put it at the RPM I want it to, so I get better acceleration into corners, out of corners, and I can adjust my speed in the corner a lot better without worrying about the automatic transmission just dropping a gear because fuck all it decides to. And the throttle response is so much better. There's no delay. Canyon road driving, fucking 10 out of 10 for the manual, dude. This is the reason I swapped this car. The car just feels so much more alive. It's aggressive now. Doesn't question who it is anymore, you know? With the automatic, you get a sense of that. Nailing some rev matches and heel toes, so good, so good. These things are just so much more fun to drive with the manual. It's unbelievable. The car feels peppier too. Because it's more responsive, it just wants to play, and you can feel that. So if you guys are gonna get a 90s sports car, or just any sports car at all, get the freaking manual. These things are so much fun to drive. Or if you're gonna buy an automatic, look into swapping it, because it's freaking A1 sauce. Alright, I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it fresh, and I will see you guys later.
We're dreaming.